Welcome to the Blueprint, where the goal is to be whole. I am your host, Charles Irving, and today is day 19 of 40 days of fasting. Today was a pretty chill day. I got done early, went to the gym, leg day, so didn't really do anything crazy. So today, I just want to talk about benchmarks. I titled this Reaching Benchmarks While Releasing Grief. Something interesting happened when I came home today. I was fairly tired, and normally when I come home, I just, try to give God thanks for what he's done, who he is, and just showing gratitude and appreciation for just him carrying me through all of this. And I'll put my bag down, I'll take my clothes out of my bag and put everything up and get all that situated so that I can be ready for tomorrow, put my new gym clothes in the bag, and then, I'll just stop and just say, thank you. And the reason why I do that is because I want to make sure that I don't let this world and the cares of this life become more important than the God who created it. So it's my way of saying, everything else can wait. I can show, appreciation and respect for who you are and what you've done and how you've brought me through even this day by just saying, Lord, I thank you. I thank you for bringing me home safe. I thank you for the fact that I have a roof over my head and clothes on my back and, well, I don't have food in my stomach right now, but access to food. But just being able to give thanks to him for his graciousness and his goodness towards me, despite all that I've gone through and all that I've done that was not pleasing to him. And yet he's still good to me. So just wanting to say thank you for that, and just remembering the Lord, because he's carrying me through and he's going to bring me to a place that requires a greater reliance on him. And that place is a place of favor and success. And it takes more. I can't say it takes more. I think it's advantageous to create the habit of constantly remembering the Lord so that he's at the forefront of your mind in every decision that you make when it comes to being in places of success. I know what it's like to not have. I know what it's like to rely on him, because you don't have a choice. It's a different level of commitment when you have a choice and you choose to rely on him. When you have the option to do whatever it is that you want, because you got the means and the resources to do it, and you decide, Lord, what do you want me to do? That takes training. It's not just something that you do. It's, I love the Lord. And no, that takes training. And I'm mindful of that, to train myself, to remind myself that it is the God that I serve who has done all of this, and that it wasn't the work of my hands. And so stopping to give thanks is vital. But this particular day, even in the car, I was like, Lord, I'm tired. I'm just gonna lay down. I'm gonna give you. I just want to, I'm in the car and I'm like, I thank you and so forth and so on. But I'm just gonna lay down because I'm tired. And when I got in, I put my bag. I don't know if I felt lightheaded or I don't know what happened, but I put my bag down and I just felt an overwhelming sense of grief. And it wasn't like, that's not accurate. I felt grief. It wasn't overwhelming, but it was enough to bring tears to my eyes. And I put my head down on my counter and I just cried. And I said, thank you. Because I didn't have the strength to give God praise. I didn't want to. I wanted to just come home and lay down. But I put my head down and allowed my body to rest on the counter, and was able to open my mouth and say, Lord, thank you. Thank you for bringing me through this time with all the challenges that come with working, trying to maintain my schedule with working out and fasting. This is different than the first time I did this. And it's harder. So I just want to say thank you. And then again, thank you for the roof over my head. I got a place to stay. I started to think about the fact that, there was a time where, I didn't have a place to stay. Sleeping in a abandoned building with no heat and hot water. And sleeping at my best friend Chauncey's house for months. And then finally getting a place of my own where I didn't have to worry about whether or not someone was going to put me out. And being able to come home every day, knowing that I did what was required of me to take care of myself. And I don't have to worry about someone deciding, because I'm living with them, that they can put me out just because, they just feel like I've overstayed my welcome. And I never want to overstay my welcome. But these are just some of the things that happen when you are what's called the invisible homeless. You're staying in somebody's, on their couch, their floor, or whatever, and you still trying to figure out what your life is, where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do. So all these things just started to come. I started to think about just some of the stuff that I was thinking about earlier in the financial situation. And again, when you're driving and you're in pain, you start wishing like, man, when is this going to end? When is it going to stop? When am I going to be in a better place? When are you going to deliver me? When are you going to do all the things that you promised? It's been years. How long do I have to wait? And you don't realize that stuff emotionally starts to build up in your heart, and it starts to build up in your mind, and it starts to build up in your soul. And while you're doing this fast, let me speak for me. I am filling my cup with the disheartening sadness of not being where I want to be, while sacrificing in the hopes that God would bless the situation and change some things for me. It becomes overwhelming. You're dealing with finances. You're dealing with the truth of the fact that you have failed in so many things in your life. You feel like, this is just never going to end. And I didn't know I was overwhelmed. I thought I was tired. That's the thing. I thought I was tired. I wasn't tired. I was overwhelmed with grief. I was overwhelmed with the loss of resources, the loss of opportunities, the loss of relationships, the loss of so many different things, loss of time. I was losing. And for whatever reason, in this particular moment, as I was just trying to fight through this week and these last couple of weeks, it was just like, no, it's overwhelming. It's hard. I did have a bout with doubt earlier. I was fighting ideas of, just being stuck and not being able to remove or reposition myself for more. And it was just like, man, is this ever going to end? When is it going to end? Because I'm tired of believing for things that aren't happening. And it was like, nah, you just got to keep believing. You didn't come this far to only come this far. You have to continue to believe, no matter what the situation or circumstance. You have to continue to believe. You didn't put all this work in. You didn't go through all this stuff for no reason. You didn't do all this for nothing. And no, you weren't the best person in the world. You didn't do everything right. But damn it, you did the best you could with what you knew. And God is going to reward that. Some things didn't work out the way you thought they would work out. Some things didn't happen when you thought they would happen. And it's not going to happen when you think it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And you just got to trust that God is going to do what God said he's going to do, because he cannot return his word void unto him. He has to accomplish that for which he sent it. And he promised to take care of you. He promised that you would write a bestseller. He promised that he would bring you into a spacious place. He promised that. And it's not your job to determine when. It is your job to remain faithful to him and trust him in all things while he develops your character so that you are suitable for the thing that he is bringing you to. Because damn it, far be it from the Lord to bring you to a place where your character can't keep you. So you got to go through it. And you got to fight, and you got to trust, and you got to believe. And yes, you may have these moments of doubts. You might battle with moments of discouragement, but you're going to persevere. Why? Because the Lord is in you, and greater is he that is in you than he that is within the world. So you are going to keep fighting no matter what. And that, these are the types of things, right? You feel this sense of you won't make it. You can't do it. You've never done this before. And why don't you just give up like you always do? These are the things that you are fighting. You are coming face to face. You're coming face to face with your own belief, and you have to overcome it. That's why you feel overwhelmed. You're coming face to face with what you have held as a belief in your heart all these years that has held you hostage because it was a lie that you were living in accordance with, but because you were so familiar with it, you believed it is true. Because there was so much evidence in your own behavior where you said you were going to do something and you didn't carry it out, you believed it was true. You have these emotions that tie into what you've done, where you failed time and time and time again. Yes, you've had some success in certain things, but it never lasted. So you got this argument in your soul, in your heart, with all this evidence, and you dare to have the audacity to challenge that? What you think is going to happen? What do you think you're going to feel? What do you think is going to, you think you're not going to struggle? You don't think you're going to feel overwhelmed? You damn right you're going to feel overwhelmed. But you ain't going to stop. You damn right you're going to feel scared. But you're going to keep going. That's where I was today. And in all of that, I just didn't feel, I said it before yesterday, I didn't have the energy to have the desire to give God thanks. And I told her, I was like, I'm tired. I just want to go to sleep. But the truth of the matter is, it wasn't that I was tired. I was tired, but that wasn't the reason. I was overwhelmed, and I needed to grieve. I needed to grieve to relieve myself of the stress and strain. And amazingly, when I shed those tears, energy came back. It was like this weight off of my shoulder. I was like, oh, okay, that was what I needed. Right? That was it. That was what I needed. I needed to release. I needed to get this stress and strain and be able to look myself in the eye and say, no, we in it. We still here. He's still with us. We can still keep going. And that was what I needed. And for many people, they don't realize. You might think you're tired. You really just need to grieve. There's some stress, there's some strain. You feel overwhelmed. And you need to get that out. Just sharing that, with you. One of the things that I wrote down that I want to read. Every investment today makes tomorrow more valuable. Why? You value what you invest in. See, you remember the work you put in to building belief. And every day you get through develops the belief that you can go a little further. That was it. Once I let that out, it was like, man, Thank you. Like the God I serve knows what I need when I don't know. And he just allowed me to feel the sense of grief and just let me shed the tear. And then I was able to praise. And then I just cried because I was just grateful. I was grateful that he saw my need and helped me to grieve when I thought I was tired. And what he's doing in all of this, right, over these 19 days, is he's building belief. And that's what training does. Training builds belief. It's unfair for me to ask you, right? Oh, go do a 40-day fast when you haven't fasted 1 to 3 days. You haven't done one. That would be you're not trained for this. Now, could you do it? Sure, anybody can do it, but how sustainable is that? And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to training. We teach and we tell, but we don't train. This is about training. Because if you can do something, that's great. It says that it's possible. But we're not talking about doing something once. We're talking about sustaining that. And we're talking about me fasting for 40 days. That's sustaining. So when I first started fasting, man, it's 20 something years ago, when I first got saved, I did my first 3-day fast. I almost lost my mind. Like, what is going on? Body was, it was crazy because that first fast, I realized the impact of food because I was smelling like this nasty smell. I was like, what is that? And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, it was me. It was the food. It was the meat in my body coming out through my pores. And I was like, oh man, I gotta go home and take a shower. And then I did a 7-day fast. And then, as I told you before, my longest fast was 21 days. I did that 2020. And I've done 10 days and 12 days and things of that nature throughout the years. I used to do, and I don't know, it was just happenstance, somewhere around early to mid-November, right before Thanksgiving, I would do, a 10 or 12-day fast every year. And I wasn't planning it. It was just something that I did. And my ex-wife had pointed that out. She's like, you do realize, like, you do this every year. I was like, nah, I just always felt, like I should do it around this time. And but that leads me into benchmarks. My initial benchmark, even for this fast, was getting to 21 days. Why? Because I had done that already. I'm more concerned, about after the 21 days, it's like, okay, we are in uncharted territory. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with my body. I believe, again, the Lord is going to sustain. He's always sustained, but I have no idea what's going to happen. So I'm like, man, this is going to be interesting. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little scared. Again, because it's uncharted territory. But as I said before, you don't do a 40-day fast. You do one fast 40 times. That's how I'm going about this. And, when I was doing my first 21-day fast, the first 7 days were the hardest because it was just like, man, my mind, my body, everything I slept a lot those first 7 days. After that, my energy started to come back day 10. And then around day 14, I just had this boost of energy. And it was like, I'm not hungry. I was cooking food I was staying at my uncle's at that time. And I was cooking food for him. And it was crazy because one day around in between the 14th and the 21st day, he was like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, why? He's like, are you sure? I'm like, well, yeah, why are you asking me if I'm all right? He's like, because I've been watching you and you haven't eaten anything in 2 weeks. I was like, oh. My fault. Yeah, so I'm fasting, so I can't eat. He was like, "Oh man, I thought something was wrong." But there was that, situation, and something spectacular happened out of that. And I know I wanted to talk about benchmarks, but I just wanted to share this. There was one particular day, my uncle was out, and I went into what I now understand is warfare prayer. And I was speaking in tongues for about a good 20 minutes. I mean, the level of energy I was expending during this period, I was exhausted after praying. Shortly after that, my uncle comes home and he's like, "Oh my God, oh my God." I was like, "Yo, what's wrong with you?" He's like, "Oh man." I was like, "Yo, what is wrong with you?" He said, he was at his, I guess I don't know what you would call it, his girlfriend, some girl he's messing with or whatever. And he said, I was sitting there and all of a sudden I looked around and I saw all kind of demons inside the house. And he said, I heard God's voice say, you need to leave now. And I just couldn't move. I was just like, he's like, I, and he said, the Lord picked me up and picked me and pulled me out of the house. And he said, man, all those years you kept telling me you heard God's voice and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, he ain't never heard no God's voice. Like, what is he talking about? He's crazy. He said, man, I heard his voice as clear as I'm hearing yours. He's like, I thought you were lying all this time. He's like, oh my God. And I was like, oh, so it was you I was praying for. This is one of the things that, your spirit becomes sensitive to the Holy Spirit. And he empowers you and he leads you to do things in the spirit that you wouldn't be able to do if your body, your mind, your soul, and your spirit is not sensitive to him. So, that's one of the major benefits of fasting. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks, but I'm believing God to do some major things through this fast, things that he has in mind and he has in store. And he's already shown me some stuff. I had some dreams the other night that was just like, yo, the Lord is really with me in all of this, cleaning up some stuff. And I was just like, amen, I receive it. But, benchmarks. In life, you should have benchmarks for success of your personal growth. There are core areas in your life that illustrate what you stand for and what you stand against as it pertains to what's important to you. They help govern you and create an internal compass for your life. So again, this fast, as I said before, when I was going through the 21-day fast, I got to day 7, it was tiring, and it was just like, okay, don't try to get to 21, get to day 10. And I was like, oh, I think I can do that. So I got to day 10. And when I got to day 10, it was like, okay, don't try to get to 21. Let's see if you can get to 14. I have this thing about myself where I have to give myself a challenge because I'm internally motivated by challenging myself. And this idea actually came from a situation where my car had broke down many years ago, and I had to take it to the dealership. It was a Honda dealership. And to get to the Honda dealership, you had to catch the bus to a particular place, and then it was like a 2 or 3 mile walk. It might have been longer than that to the dealership. And again, that particular day I had food and I was still tired. So I'm walking, and then I got the bright idea. Let's see how fast it takes you to get to this light pole. And I would just time myself. And then I would do that every so often. And what it did is, one, it kept me off of what I was doing in terms of time. And then when I looked up, I was at the dealership. So I took that same approach to that particular fast. And again, this is why I'm talking about benchmarks, because we're in day 19. The next milestone is day 25. And just seeing how I get through this using benchmarks, because again, life is about, benchmarks. Like, what are the benchmarks of your life? What are the core areas of your life that allow you to be, successful? So these are my life benchmarks that, if I'm operating in maturity in these, I feel like I'm successful. I call them the 4 F's to a solid foundation. And I mentioned this before, I just never, titled it. It's faith, my relationship with God, which fasting and prayer and reading my word and obeying him is all a part of it. My family, just again, I don't have I'm divorced and don't have, family and friends around me. But now that I'm older and wiser, these things have become more and more important to me over the years. Family was extremely important to me when I was married. There were certain things I did, and things I just wouldn't do because, my family came first. Finances, as I said, in debt and the challenges of that, I've always been a guy who wanted to make sure that his finances were right. I just didn't have a lot of guidance in that, but I knew because of the mandate of wealth on my life, I needed to be wise in my finances. But the pressures of responsibilities when you have a family, you got wife and children, and they want this and they want that, and they want to live a certain way, and you're not necessarily, I wasn't solid in how I conducted my finances with the family. I was solid with how I conducted my finances when I was by myself, but I wasn't solid in the principles, and then creating a shared vision with my wife and children about how we would handle our finances. And we just found ourselves in situations where I ended up putting myself in debt and then trying to become wealthy and taking unnecessary risks. Or I won't say unnecessary, I think they were just bad timing. You feel like, man, you go to these conferences and they get you all riled up and you get emotional and you're like, I can do this. And next thing you know, you got $50,000 on your credit card and you're like, wait, this is not what I thought it was. So I did it. And, I thank God for the fact that he's like, no, we're going to make use of this too. It'll be something where you'll share that story as well. So faith, family, finances, and then my fitness, health, taking care of my body to the best of my ability, learning more and more about nutrients and vitamins and rest and, portions of food and exercise, all these different things that allow you to create an opportunity for you to have a quality of life in terms of your health along with wealth. The reality of it is that your health is your wealth. You can't buy a healthy body. That has to be, worked for. You have to train that. You can't buy that. You can look healthy and still not be healthy. So I'm still learning about, even though I've slimmed down and lost a considerable amount of weight, and praise God for that. That's not what this is about, but it is a added benefit. I'm thanking God for being diabetes free after this. Thanking God for, wealth strategies and book strategies and all types of things that will allow me to share my experience in training myself to develop the right mindset, the right skill sets, and using my life as a dojo, as a training ground to develop who I am, what I believe, and what I'm doing. So I'm looking forward to what happens. But do me a favor. In your personal development journey, what are your benchmarks to reach the level of growth you desire in your life that make you feel successful? Drop those in the comments. Let me know. And I just want to, hear about what's important to you guys and just give you an opportunity to put it on paper. Remind yourself. You might have 4, you might have more. I think 3 to 4, is pretty good. And, from there, so many other things can stem out. But, share it in the comments. Let me know your benchmarks that make you feel successful when you operate in them from a place of being whole. As always, don't try to change the world. Instead, build you, and your world will transform. Until next time, peace.